What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Tokyo Blade, Time is the Fire. This also came out on January 17th, this time on Dissonance Productions, and this is the band's 12th studio full-length overall, and of course, this was my first time checking out Tokyo Blade, but they are a band from England that was pretty much right there during the Nawabum scene, the new wave of British heavy metal movement, and not as many releases as some other of the bigger Nawabum bands like Iron Maiden, Saxon, Motorhead, and bunch of others, but from what I've seen when it comes to their discography, they're fairly consistent in recent years. So I thought to myself, how about I check out some more classic heavy metal from the Nawabum movement with this new album from Tokyo Blade. And well, kicking things off with Feeding the Rat, immediately you kind of get the idea of what this production's going for. It's kind of like a hybrid between, like, or not really a hybrid, but it basically encapsulates everything 80s as far as the production goes. The guitar tone, I really liked the guitar tone across the board on this whole album. It kind of has that, like, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Saxon kind of feel to the guitar tone. Although I will say the big thing I have against this album when it comes down to the production, the drum sound. Like, it sounds like canned, almost electronic 80s drums. Almost kind of like if you took a lot of the drum sound from Judas Priest albums, like Defenders of the Faith, Turbo, Ram It Down, and just kind of mashed them together. That's the drum sound on here. The performance on the drums, though, is completely different. It is pretty damn fluid, pretty tasteful, apart from one part on the album, which I'll get to later on. But with this opening track, it definitely kind of sets the tone for this album in terms of everything you get on here, which is all classic heavy metal, classic Nawabum tropes of, like, twin harmonies, shredding guitars, some, like, diverse tempo shifts, whether it be, like, super fast or even getting borderline doomy at times. Like, we go forward into the album, song like Man of the Stair. This one, like the first couple tracks, Feeding the Rat and Moth to the Fire, both of those songs were a little more on the up-tempo side, a little more rock forward in terms of, like, the rhythm and the tempo. But then with Man of the Stair, it gets a little more towards mid-tempo to almost doom. And it starts off with this, like, eerie, clean melody. Now, this album, for the most part, I want to say was in D tuning, D standard, I want to say. But there are quite a few songs on here that sound like they're in standard tuning, and those were some of my favorites. I thought they were a little bit heavier than the songs in D standard. Like Man of the Stair, it sounds like a heavy Judas Priest song at times, but you also get those, like, classic triplet gallops. The song Are You Happy Now, which I will admit, some of these song titles were a little dumb, like Are You Happy Now and Going with the Flow, kind of dumb, but at the same time endearing. But Are You Happy Now, this song kind of stands out as something a lot different. Like, there's more twangy riffs going on, whereas with the majority of this album, it's a lot more straightforward. Whereas here, it's got some twang to it, which is really nice. And also, it grooves. The song grooves pretty damn well. And then after that song, you get into the back-to-back great duality that is The Enemy Within and Going with the Flow. The Enemy Within is the doomiest song on the album. It's kind of like, almost like a Witchfinder General song, but done with a little bit more of a somber tone, especially with the clean melodies. And then Going with the Flow, excuse me, is the one, like, ballad on the album, if I could use that word, or it's maybe more of dirge at times, but it comes off as more of a ballad. But there is a particularly heavy bridge on this song with some of the heaviest moments on the album. And then you fast forward into the album tracks like The Devil in You, which was actually the shortest track of the album at 3.5 minutes. almost thrash metal. Like, it almost reminds me a lot of Judas Priest, like in the Painkiller era, or even like recent Judas Priest, where it almost touches on thrash because of how fast the song is and the riffs and the rhythms and how they go. Soldier On, this one, you want to talk about another giant trope that shows up on here that I brought up earlier, and that's the twin harmonies. Lots of harmonies, twin leads. Like, actually, when it comes down to the lead work across the board on this album, I absolutely love the lead work. Like, you get some lead trade-offs, a lot of shred, but a good chunk of twin leads. Like, you got twin leads on The Enemy Within, as well as Soldier On, Written in Blood, and the final track, Ramesses. Those songs all have such wonderful twin solos. But back to Soldier On, this one also incorporates a really soothing, clean section to kind of almost feel a little bit like Rush, like early 80s Rush, which I really appreciated. Don't Bleed Over Me, there's more of that Judas Priest riffage going on, as well as groove. Written in Blood, this was another one of those mid-tempo riffy tracks. And also some Def Leppard gang vocals, which I always like a good Def Leppard gang vocal, especially in their old stuff. And then, like I said, the closer, Ramesses, which was nearly 8 minutes long. Some of the chunkiest and grooviest riffs on the album, but also some of the best clean melodies you would hear across the board on this album. Now, there are songs on here that I thought were a little bit weaker, songs like the 47, the 600, and We Burn. Like, those songs were solid, but didn't quite capture my imagination quite as much as the majority of the songs on here. But now to the biggest issue I had with this album. This album does suffer from bloat. 14 tracks, it's almost 75 minutes. It's a long listen. It is a long listen. And honestly, some of these songs might be a little bit too long for what they're going for, which is just straightforward classic heavy metal. Honestly, I think a lot of these songs could have been trimmed down, like trim off some of the fat, and I think it would have helped serve this album better, as well as maybe drop the 47, the 600, and We Burn, because again, I thought those songs were a little bit weaker in comparison. So I think if you wiped out those songs and trimmed the fat on the majority of these songs, I think you could have gotten this album at about 54, 55 minutes, and I think it would have been a much easier listen. And then, of course, one thing I forgot to mention, which was in Written in Blood, there's a moment during the choruses where the rhythm and the vocals are off each other. I don't know if it was a recording issue, a mastering issue, or when it was edited. I don't know what happened, but it's notable on this track. But overall, aside from those complaints, for the most part, this was a fun album to go through. I will give this 3.5 out of 5 to kind of meet in the middle. I would have given it a 3 because of the bloat, but part of me wanted to give it a 4 because of how cool a lot of these songs were. So I'm going to meet in the middle at a 3.5. This is a pretty good album. It's just whittle some things down. And also maybe the drum sound could have been a little bit better, and I think this album could have gone up to a 4. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.